All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide, toll-free, 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And you can listen to the X Zone 24/7, 365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Laura MENDLESOHN is my guest this hour. She is a spirit medium, seeing spirit uninvited as a child. Laura closed off her guides pushed through over 30 years ago. Some of her credentials include author of several books and the Mediumship Soul Psychic Healer Master Certification Program, certified in many areas, featured in the 100 Top Psychics and Astrologers in America, research medium for AfterlifeData.com, and the host of The Mix Mediumship and Messages. Her website, Spedium. Her website is spiritmediumlaura.com. And Laura, how are you, dear?
I'm fine. How are you this evening?
It's one of those nights.
No, it isn't really. It's just that I have such a wordy intro. I'm going to have to clean that up.
Oh no, you don't improve on perfection.
Anyway, thank you for being so kind as to have me on the show.
It's great having you with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and you know, here you were a young child, and apparently, from what I gather, your guides were kind of always part of your life.
Yeah, it's funny because when it happened as a child, it was I didn't understand what was going on.
Uh-huh.
And it was very frightening. Usually when I would go off to sleep at night, I would hear this funny buzzing noise in my ears.
Mm-hmm.
And it would get louder and louder and louder and louder until finally it would just crash to silence. And there before me would be strangers talking to me. And I had no idea what this was. I never heard of anything like this as I got older until actually recently I ran into some individuals who had taken training at the Monroe Institute, out-of-body experience training, and they said to me, "Oh, yeah, that's the party sound." "What do you mean that's the party sound?" I said to them. Well, what they do in the Monroe Institute, you're familiar with it, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, yes.
Sure. Is they work on creating a dimensional shift
Mm-hmm.
between this dimension to astral, and through a series of mental exercises. I think it's hemisphere synchronization. I'm not quite sure. But in any event, as they shift from one dimension to another, they hear the sound of a party off in the distance that gets louder and 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 louder until finally it just goes so loud it's almost deafening, and then it stops to silence, and you're in a different dimension. So what does this all add up to mean? It's a little different maybe than what a medium might say. I believe, and for your show, maybe it's okay for me to say this.
Sure.
But I believe that I am what's called a star seed. And if you read up on them, that's one of the things they say is that they would have a ringing noise in their ears before they would have a psychic experience. And most of my psychic work is really geared towards shifting people's consciousness from a very limited three-dimensional perspective to a fifth-dimensional perspective in which our normal laws of reality no longer apply, and we start to create our reality at will. Now, part of the skill set of being such a being as I am, excuse the pun, is that I will see people who have deceased, apparently. And I do it all the time. I do it live on my radio show. I do it live for clients. I have a trance circle at my home once a month, and it's truly an honor to be of service. Truly an honor.
So when you start going into trance, or you start having this extra dimensional experience, how do you relate that to common day physics?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I would say that as our brain waves shift to a slower state, we're able to pick up different vibrational frequencies. So it's like focus. I like to use this example a lot with people I'm teaching. I do teach some of this stuff. Imagine that you were looking at a field, and in the field you had various different things. You could look off on the horizon and focus there. You could focus on the blade of grass in front of you. When you go into an altered state, you're able to change the things you're noticing. You're able to focus in on things that were always around us, but you were in a different brainwave state and we're not picking it up. You just weren't focused on it. So that's what I would describe it as. There's another shift as well. People who are very trained, like yogis and Buddhist monks and so on, what they do in their training is they move to slower brainwave states, and then when they want to do healing, they will shift up. They will go to what's called a gamma brainwave state, which is faster than beta. And maybe for your listeners, they might want to hear a review of that. But beta is our day-to-day. Alpha is a little slower. Theta is usually what we have in REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And then we have delta, which is the slowest brainwave state. But if you move to a faster state than beta, you go to gamma. And gamma is a place where one can create reality. I like to study quantum physics or quantum mechanics and what our reality is at a subatomic level. And as you probably have heard before, so please excuse me if I'm being redundant, but at a quantum level, the smallest level possible, matter does not exist until we expect to see it, or we're asking to see it, or we measure it, similar to focus, as I mentioned a moment ago. So using that idea and using it as a metaphor for our reality, we can use gamma brainwave state to turn around and create reality by virtue of projecting it. So I do both as a medium. I help people project possible realities, as well as I help people perceive realities by switching to different brainwave states.
What does it feel like to go into a full state, a full trance state, to bring a soul from the other side, Laura?
I have been in a complete out trance state once, but most of the time I'm in a semi-conscious state. And so I'll answer, in both cases it feels a little differently. That's why I'm bringing up the difference. In a full trance state, it doesn't feel like anything. Actually, you don't feel anything. You feel numb. And what I experienced was my entire vision field moved to the upper right portion of my vision field. My eyes were still open, I believe, but everything that was in front of me was moved to this little small camera on the upper right portion of my vision field. The remainder of my vision field was black. I sensed that I was talking to someone and even moving my body, but I was not fully aware of what was being said. I wasn't aware at all, actually. I couldn't hear anything. I just knew that something was happening, that I was using my vocal cords and that my arms and hands were being used to gesticulate and express something to another person. The entrance into that was me being completely docile and open, and I asked that Spirit would come in. This is in a very early state of my development where I didn't have any fear, okay?
Right.
So I asked that Spirit come in, and this huge energy came swooping in on me, and that's when my vision field changed and my awareness levels changed. And when that was done, that energy that was involved in my physicality swept out of my body, and I returned into the room completely. So that's the full trance as I experienced it. I've not interviewed a lot of people about that, so I really don't know how they would, but I would assume it feels the same. But now, most of the time, I'm just in a highly relaxed state, a little bit dopey, actually. And sometimes I don't even remember what came out of my mouth the moment before. And it just feels like I'm a little bit of a puppet and something is able to speak through me. One of the things that you have to do if you're working with the public, and that's what we do, us mediums, is you have to be able to keep switching between right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain. You don't know you're doing it, but it has been shown, I believe it's a research I think it was the center, I can't remember the place that found this out, Center for Cyclical Research in England, I think, that the brainwave state of a medium when they're actively doing discernment and work with a client or with the public, is similar to an epileptic fit. In that both hemispheres of the brain are communicating very rapidly with each other. And the reason for that is that I have to be somewhat cognitive and somewhat subjective at the same time. It's a very interesting balancing act, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you, how do you know that you're actually communicating with a spirit, that it's real, that it's just not a figment of imagination, telepathy, or some other unexplained phenomena?
Oh, you asked one of my most favorite questions of late. Actually, I would say I have that thought every now and then as well. And especially within the last few months, I started to really think about it because I was asked to be on a radio show of a woman who wrote We Don't Die, Sandra Champlain bestseller. And her whole thing was she was asking other people, how do you know that there's another side? And I said to her, well, I don't really know. But since then, I've been looking at everything a little bit more analytically. And there's a couple of things that it wouldn't be me, it wouldn't even be me reading if there was such a thing. Let's be completely dumb about this, okay? Let's say we are able to read the collective unconscious, okay, as you calls it,
sure.
The all that is, all knowledge. And let's say all I'm really doing as a medium is going into the collective and pulling in information. Well, the problem with that is the information is more interactive and three-dimensional. For example, yesterday on my own radio show, I had a soul come in, and she gives me a visual of herself, and I explain to the listener who I see what I see, and the listener says, oh, yes, that's my grandma. That's my grandma. She's jumping up and down. Well, anyway, Grandma's first statement is that she, my granddaughter, is a namesake of mine. Well, that's a little different than me going into the collective unconscious. I'm getting a different point of view there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So the caller's name was Amber, and Amber said, yes, that was my grandmother's middle name. And I was so happy. Other times when I get hit by energy, and again, I'm not reading the collective unconscious. It's not telepathy. There's nobody sending me that. I'm getting literally whacked side the head. I'm getting knocked across the room almost. There's one situation. May I tell a story?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is a good example of energy. A regular client, she'd come to me once or twice before. She called one morning and said, I really need an appointment today. I said, okay, I can fit you in at 2:00. So as I'm working with other clients and doing other things that day, I keep thinking of her mother. And I keep hearing mother, mother, mother. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I thinking of mother for this wonderful client? Anyway, the client gets here, and as she's walking up to my front door, I hear, mother, mother, again, very loud. The door opens. The daughter walks in, or my client walks in, and then I hear, mother, mother, again in my ears, and I get whacked on the side of my head with energy. Now, that's not me reading the collective. That's an interaction. So it is different then, and it's also not telepathy because there was no engagement with another mind at the moment. It was coming to me uninvited. And then indeed the young lady before me said her she said her mother passed the week before, and that was why she was there. So those kind of experiences, very subtle at first. When you start to look for them, you realize this is a little bit different than me just reading somebody's mind or me just, reading energy of the collective unconscious.
Why did you decide to do this professionally?
Well, I did not decide. I did at one point make a decision. I guess let me take that back. We all make our decisions. I was sort of forced into it. Born of a household that was rather eccentric. My mother was into mediumistic arts and the occult arts and reading tarot and astrology, numerology, mediumship, billet reading, face reading, hand reading, you name it, she did it. I always thought it was funny. I thought it was hysterically funny. I'm her daughter. What do I care? I had paranormal experiences, but I never paid attention until I was 30 years old, and a voice boomed through me after I asked that my guardian angel come through or my angels come through. This voice booms through me, and I'm like, would I lose my mind? What's going on here? And then I started to look into it more and more, but still I was in the closet. I did not make it a career choice. My career choice was to be successful in business and make a lot of money. And I did. I retired when I was around 46 years old. I had 17 years in the software industry. And then what happened was I got married for the first time. I got married later. I had my money. Oh, I was so proud of myself, Rod. I thought I was so smart. I had money. Right? I had marriage. I thought I was a maven at manifesting. But the funny thing happened. When my mother passed away, all of these other things sort of trickled out of my life. The marriage failed. The money started to dissipate. And my ability to manifest, which is what I thought I used to get there, that disappeared as well. And so as I sat and lost my fiance, he didn't want to marry me anymore. And I lost all my money because the stock market went awry. In the 2000 to 2010, everything in the world happened to my money, and it was gone. So sitting in a pile of tears, having a tantrum to what I don't know because there was nobody around me, just me, myself, and I heard a little voice in my head say, well, if it's to be, it's up to me. The only thing I'd done in the last 2 to 3 years before that was readings for people, which was a natural thing for me. And I decided that I would give that my full attention to see if that would be my way out of this conundrum, which I thought I was going to be homeless. I didn't know who to turn to. My parents were no longer on earth. I had no one really to turn to. And within 4 months, my income went up 400%. So I interpreted that to mean that I was being guided. And I do have a natural ability to do these things, so here I am.
Why do you think people in today's society go to spirit mediums, go to psychics, seek answers in a pseudoscience?
For a variety of reasons. Some good, in my opinion. Some not so good. I think if you understand what a medium and psychic can do for you, then you're going for the right reasons. But the wrong reason is to give up personal responsibility for creating your life. A lot of people I choose not to work with, I do turn people away, are those that are coming to me for fortune telling. Or in a similar state in mediumship is a little different than just a life reading, but in mediumship, they're so heavily steeped in grief, or they're so it's not even skeptical. I don't mind skeptics, but people who are like, they have an attitude of show me, prove me, they're closed down. So closed down people is not good for mediumship because spirit won't show up for them. So that's the mediumship. But the other side of it is in a life reading, people who come and want me to tell them what's going to happen to them, it just repels me so much. The reason is that spirit, my belief system, wants to enable you to evolve. And we're on earth to make choices. We're not on earth to be a puppet and to give up our responsibility. To me, giving up your responsibility for living your life and making it happen is tantamount to being an addict. It's copping out. So I call those people people who are at an addictive level to psychic work. So I try to move away from that, and I move them towards understanding, and I use my psychic skills to help them understand what part they're playing in this, why they created this on a psycho-spiritual level. And then we do healing, and we do predictions, but they're always done within the context of what choices and what possibilities are there for you. The mediumship is a great tool for having some evidence come in, seeing that your loved ones continue. And as I mentioned already, it's not always the best tool if you're already made up your mind that this is not real, because it doesn't really allow anything to happen.
Laura, stand by. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Laura Mendelsohn is our guest. She is a spirit medium. Her website is spiritmediumlaura.com. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and the Starcom Radio Network. We'll be back on the other side of this short break. Don't go away. Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. One Florida drug dealer made a serious mistake when he dared peddle his poisons on the schoolyard of Robert W. Morgan's preteen daughter. Morgan, a budding film director, tracked him to his hidden Everglades lair where his meth lab mysteriously blew sky high. When Morgan's demands to police to make grammar school playgrounds safer from drugs were ignored, he sought the counsel of CIA operative Frank Sturgis. Again, he was warned to give up what was becoming an obsession. Instead, Robert used his reputation as a filmmaker to infiltrate the mafia by stroking their egos and offering to make films for them offshore so they could import them as foreign product without paying taxes. When they agreed to build him a studio in Panama, Robert called the DEA and FBI and offered to work undercover. In time, their combined efforts revealed how the mob was secretly laundering billions of dollars through the Vatican Bank in Rome before returning to the States as foreign investments. Now read Morgan's story, Citizen Spy, Vatican Cover-Up, The Mob, Money Laundering, and Murder, available at Amazon.com, BN.com, and Borders.com. The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howell will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades, there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com. Call him Reef. Reef is your host. Reef is your guide. Are you happy? Happiness is like trying to find water in the desert. Can you find any? Sometimes, sure, but only a few drops. God is an ocean of joy, but God is not cheap. You cannot find God in a chemical. You must attract God's attention. How? Not by living to please your senses. That is false ego. The Matrix is not real. It is a computer-enhanced hallucination. You are spirit soul, not the body. We have forgotten how splendid our home really is, the spiritual sky. For more information, visit RishasSongOfBlue.com. That's www.ReeshasSongofblue.com.
Nicholas P. Jennings is a lover of humanity and a seeker of truth. Using facts and not opinion, he exposes misconceptions spread by religious and political organizations. While theology, engineering, and science were his fields of academics, history, philosophy, and humanities are his fields of research. His article entitled "The Obama-Iran Nuclear Deal Must Be Stopped" exposes lies by Obama to approve a nuclear deal. This deal benefits Iran domestically and militarily, but compromises the security of the United States. The Jennings article is provided on the internet link www.rel-mar.com/NG1. That's www.rel-mar.com/NG1.
Welcome back, everyone. Laura Mendelsohn is our guest this hour. www.spiritmediumlaura.com. Laura, do you subscribe to reincarnation?
You know, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. And I like to think of it, but I think it's really hard for a human mind.
Right.
To really quite grasp what that is. It does come into a lot of the readings, and I look at it almost like shorthand to express what the soul contract is for a particular lifetime. But there's two conflicts here for me. One is we look at it as a linear occurrence of different lifetimes, and they're all very fancy and different different time eras we know as humans. And then you think to yourself, well, how does that fit into the now if everything is in the now in the spirit world? You know, we move out of the time-space continuum of the earth dimension, we go to spirit, everything is in the now. Well, that means that future lifetimes, past lifetimes, perhaps even other worlds are right now happening all at the same time. So I don't really understand it, but I do believe that it is quite possible that we do have other places and other times that we do exist in. I'm just not quite sure how to understand it.
Based on the communications that you've had with those on the other side, what is our purpose for living?
Well, they don't tell me as much as guides do. Every now and then somebody who's a little bit more, each soul has their particular point of view and different level of awareness, and some of them will expound on that a bit. But from a spiritual guide perspective, or I like to call them divine beings, Because again, from Earth, we don't really know what these elevated consciousnesses are, but perhaps consciousnesses that are more advanced than us. What I believe I've received, and it's in my first book, which is The Soul Abundance Law of Attraction Secret, what I believe has been channeled to me, and not only through words on paper, but also the way my life turned out, like I was forced into this, is that we're here to be of service. We're here to remember who we truly are at a very deep level. That includes our dharma, or our soul's work, our talents. Like you have a talent, you have your dharma, Rob, and I have mine. And we all come to Earth to serve. And when we understand what that is, and I can give you an idea of how to discover that in a moment, but when we give into what that is, then we seem to fall into the right place, the right people, the right time. That's a real form of magic that I believe is coming from the omnipotent world of spirit, and we're just the tail of the dog here on the earth plane, fulfilling what our soul, which is the rest of the dog, is wanting us to do here.
Then who is in control of who? Is it the soul who's in control of the physical body? And you said something about we're here to remember.
Yes.
Now, if we're here to remember, wouldn't that point a finger at reincarnation? Since if we're here to remember, that means we've already been here before, so we're back.
No, that's a very loaded phrase. We're here to remember. I mean it on a few different levels. The first is to remember that we're divine beings having a physical experience. So we're here to remember that we're truly connected to an omnipotent power. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. Because most people come into Earth cutting that umbilical cord to the all that is, source, God connection, and we feel fearful. And so the remembrance is that we are powerful so long as we connect with that divine source within ourselves. Another way to put it is moving from an addiction, fearful state to a love state, a higher Christ consciousness state. So that's one level of remembering. Mm-hmm. The other level of remembering is to remember what our service is, our unique service, our footprints, our spiritual DNA, if you will. Each of us has unique gifts and talents, and to remember that, embrace it, and use it is another part of remembering.
How does one discover what their talents are, for example?
Or their purpose?
Their purpose.
Can I make it a little broader? Okay. Well, I look at it like this. I have a system that I coach and use. It's a spiritual development system, and it spells the word love, L-O-V-E. You can use these. Each of these letters stands for a step. And it is overall alignment with love in the biggest sense possible of the connection to all that is. So L is the first step, and that is letting go of our biggest problem in our life. Each of us has had some systemic, karmic kind of issue that we come in with. I was working with a client today. Hers is attaining unconditional love. She experienced abandonment by her father when she was young, and she has created over and over again experiences for herself which challenge her sense of being lovable and also impress upon herself that she does not have love. So her purpose this lifetime is the antithesis of this, the other side of the coin, which is to understand we are love, to connect to her own sense of love, to nurture herself, and then turn around and help others find their love, that love for themselves. So our purpose is always our reaction to our biggest challenge.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. With this lady who had issues, father issues, when her father left her at a very early age, what, if any, are psychological damages that may be caused to a person who seeks the advice or explanation of a non-trained professional? For example, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, someone who is trained in the human psyche.
That's a very excellent question, and I think that's a very good question to ask. The dangers is what you're asking?
Yeah, well, the dangers to the person who is seeking the information, because if a person comes to, let's say, you with a psychological problem.
Sure. And is it dangerous to them, to the consumer?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it could be. Sure, of course it could be. I know that I am not credentialed in a traditional sense. However, I do everything as ethically as possible. And again, that is subjective. What does that mean? So it really ultimately comes down to, am I doing something harmful to others? And the answer is, I wouldn't be in business if I were, because I would not have any repeat business. I would not get any referrals, and I would not have the recordings of my own show on my website to show what I do.
Yeah, well, okay, I understand that. But still, are you not stepping into a territory where you're not experienced or you're not licensed to do?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, of course I am. Yes, I am. And, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I just have to acknowledge. But on the other hand, there's been much harm done by those who are licensed.
But at least when you go to someone who is licensed, who is a professional, there is a recourse that can be taken. These people have to go to school. They have to be accredited. And anyone with a website can become a psychic or a medium these days.
It's very true. And I don't like that, not for myself, because I feel that I'm skilled in this area. And I know that sounds perhaps a bit arrogant, but I just have a natural talent for this. But there are many. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. I taught a class of mediumship, and one of the students, actually 2 or 3 of them, immediately after one class, they had a couple of good connections, wanted to become mediums. And I was appalled. I had no recourse. I couldn't do anything about it. And they went off and tried to become mediums. And, of course, they failed because it's not easy to do this work. So I don't really have any answer for you other than I know that people have gone to doctors and been hurt with credentials. I know, and the recourse is, you can sue or something, but you could sue or hurt somebody else that hurt you. There's many ways to hurt me if somebody wanted to get back. I don't mean by a spell. I mean literally suing me. Sure. Coming after me or blaspheming me or ruining my reputation. Well,
do you think it would be advantageous at this point in society to have mediums, psychics, and channels licensed?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. I think it would be very helpful. Yes, I do. In my particular case, I do whatever I can to create a way for there to be ethics. I mean, in the case of a training class I put together, it is my way of offering what I consider to be a good training system for somebody. But, I'm just part and parcel of it. Yeah. I guess the proof is in the pudding, as the saying goes. If I weren't doing a good job, if I weren't doing a fair, even, and reputable job, my reputation would be ruined and I would not be doing this.
Let me ask you this: how does someone who is looking for a spirit medium, with all the availabilities of those on the internet these days, how do they know who is good, who is reputable, and who to run away from?
That, my dear, is a very difficult question to answer, because I have even seen some who consider themselves to be a clearinghouse for this information not be above board. Okay? So the best way is to see if there's some proof. For example, in my case, I tape everything that I do on my radio show, and I offer it to people to review. If somebody says something good about me, I try to get their first and last name. If not, I just put the comment up. But the most important thing is I'm working through referrals. And so if you're a consumer of this, you want to see proof that the person that you're thinking of going to does what they say they do. So you want to either see some kind of readings they've done, or maybe you can hear them doing live readings. Maybe they're referred to you from a friend, that kind of a thing. So usually there's a third-party endorsement. Perhaps they've been certified by, for example, the Forever Family Foundation. But even there, I've heard some mediums on their radio show that have been certified, but I don't understand why. I don't really understand why. There's some excellent ones they've certified, but other ones that haven't. So another thing to look for or expect as a consumer of this information is some mediums and psychics are going to be what you need, and others are not going to be what you need, because it's an art form. It's not a science. Just like going and looking at art, some paintings will resonate for you, others will not. Gotcha. So, look for referrals, look for evidence that they do what they say they do, either through credentials and or live readings. Most importantly, live readings.
Laura, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. We've run out of time for now, but X-Zone Nation, you can always visit Laura's website at spiritmediumlaura.com. Now, I'll be back on the other side of this feature as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Once again, by public demand, you, the X-Zone Nation, have asked me to play my rendition of what really happened at Roswell. My name's Rob McConnell. Don't go away.